Okay, so good evening, everybody. Tonight's going to be a little bit different. We're going to have a short presentation, but then we're going to have something interactive, which I hope will be helpful. So tonight we're talking about the brain, nootropics, and the brain is the most complex organization that we know of in the universe. It weighs about 2% of total body weight, and it uses about 15 to 25% of the body's oxygen supply because it has such high metabolic demands. The energy demands increase during periods of high cognitive activity, such as learning, problem solving, and decision making. It uses about 25 to 50% of the total energy of the body. So can you imagine that? All the 2% of body weight uses 50% at times of the energy. So I think we should be taking a look at our brains and finding out what we can do to make them function well. Now, the brain is the body's greatest electrical generator. So it generates electricity, and the voltage determines the intensity at which it responds to stimulus, how the metabolism goes, the states of consciousness, when you're alert, when you're asleep. So it uses a lot less when you're asleep and a lot more when you're alert. And a low voltage slows down the actions and personality of a person. So if your or my brain is at a low voltage, then what will happen is we will have a very, very slow personality. We'll be dull, etc. Now, the speed of the brain is how quickly electrical signals are processed. And this determines the real functioning age. So your functional age can be completely different to your chronological age. So many people appear to be old long before their time, and that's because their brains have slowed down. The electrical energy in the brain is slow, and they become slow, and it's a real problem. We can see that some people at 50 act like people who are 90, and some people at 90 act like people who are 40. It just works like that. And now, increasing brain speed, or the speed at which the brain functions by increasing the electrical charge, improves the memory and attention. So you'll be able to have better attention, the IQ and your behavior will all increase and improve. And when it slows down, we become forgetful, and our rhythm determines how well we handle stress. So as people age, there is a problem with mood, depression, anxiety, and memory issues because the brain has changed and the speed has slowed down because we haven't done the things necessary to keep our minds sharp so that we can study and learn and be productive and active into our 70s, 80s, 90s, and even over 100 years old. So we can do it if we just change certain things. And tonight we're going to look at some of the things that we can change, that we can add, so that we can have a much more balanced brain, a brain that functions well. An example would be obesity. There are many people who are obese these days. I think it's something like 60% in South Africa and about the same in the United States. And that has to do with brain speed. If your brain is slow, then your metabolism is slow, and you can become obese very, very easily, and your thyroid will slow down. So everybody looks at the thyroid and they say, oh, okay, let's beef up the thyroid. But actually the thyroid is controlled by the brain. So if we want to get to the root cause of anything, we have to go and start at the beginning, where the problem is. And the brain being the most important organ, in conjunction with the heart, but that's slightly different with emotional stuff. But as far as the actual functioning of the body goes, the brain is the most important organ. Right. Now, what are nootropics? Now, nootropics are also known as smart drugs or cognitive enhancers, and they're substances that can be supplemented or used to improve cognitive function. That includes memory, creativity, motivation, and overall mental performance. Nootropics can be natural or synthetic, and obviously we prefer a natural one, but sometimes they are synthetic and they do work well if they're designed properly. They may include vitamins, minerals, herbs, other compounds that have been shown to be beneficial and have beneficial effects on the brain. Some common examples would be omega-3 fatty acids, ginkgo biloba, ashwagandha, all these different things that we do know about, these different substances, which work very, very well. And what they actually do is they increase blood flow to the brain, and they'll also increase the voltage in the brain. So they boost neurotransmitter activity, enhancing brain cell growth and repair. So some nootropics have been shown to be safe and effective, with others having negative side effects or interactions with medications. What we're going to talk about tonight is very safe ones that you can rely on, and all natural tonight. So we'll be talking about ways that we can actually balance our brains using nootropics. I just want to point out at this point, and it's not for tonight's discussion, but Candida or yeast infection can affect the brain tremendously. Candida yeast infection can cause cravings. It can, especially sugar cravings, and it can cause mood changes, terror, all kinds of different aspects. But that's not for tonight. We can talk about that another time. Now, the brain has 4 main amino acids that it uses. These 4 main amino acids are dopamine, and if the dopamine is high, then the voltage is high, then a person will be an extrovert or have extrovert tendencies. If the voltage is low with dopamine, the person will be an introvert. So just by changing the dopamine to increase it, the person becomes more extroverted, and low dopamine, they become introverted. Then the next one is acetylcholine. Now that acetylcholine is very important, one of the 4, and increased will increase the brain speed. It's got to do with memory, etc. If it's decreased, the brain speed decreases, or the brain speed increases with high acetylcholine. As I said, it's got a lot to do with memory. And then we've got GABA, and GABA, if GABA is high, it increases calmness and rhythm. If it's decreased, then the calmness and rhythm decreases. So with low GABA, you won't be calm. You'll be in a state of agitation. Then we've got serotonin as the 4th main amino acid or brain chemical. Increased harmony if it's high, or decreased harmony if it's low. So we see that these 4 main amino acids are very, very, very important. And if they're out of balance, we can have all kinds of problems. I've had cases where people have come to me and they wanted to commit suicide, and we've got these brain chemicals balanced, and those tendencies have disappeared. And we have a way of doing it, which I'm going to show you tonight. So by the end of tonight, you should know whether you need any of these 4 amino acids. And as I said, short presentation, we don't have much time. So we'll just go through very quickly, and then we'll go into the interactive section. So dopamine is associated with pleasure and reward, motivation, movement, and it is involved with the control of movement. Dopamine is also involved in several cognitive functions, including attention, learning, and memory. It plays a role in regulating mood and emotion. Low levels of dopamine being associated with depression and other mood disorders. In addition to its role in the brain, dopamine is also involved in regulating blood pressure, heart rate, and kidney function. It's linked to addiction. So with low dopamine, one tends to become addicted. So one finds that addicts require drugs because they don't have the dopamine, because certain drugs use the same receptors. And those drugs could be cocaine and amphetamines. They increase levels of and feelings of euphoria, and they also reinforce addictive behavior. So we find that that dopamine is so important, and it's a feel-good chemical. So it's really a good thing to balance in your body. Now, we do have a remedy called dopamine, and this is, I must point out, available on the BioSol website. So it's there. You can get it at any time, and there's also a test which I'll show you at the end of this presentation. But dopamine is so important. It's involved with anemia, balance problems, blood sugar instability, bone density, carb binges, constipation, decreased desire for food, reduced strength, diabetes, diarrhea, digestive issues, sleep issues. One might want to sleep too much if your dopamine is low, food cravings, tumors, high blood pressure, low blood pressure, sugar issues, joint pain, and it goes on and on and on. There's so many of the things, and even Parkinson's disease. So if you find someone who has Parkinson's disease, one of the root or the main root cause is low dopamine. So Parkinson's is obviously the shaking disease, and that's an issue. So if you or someone tries to balance or repair Parkinson's using drugs, and you haven't balanced the dopamine, then there's no real solution to it. Thyroid disorders, all different types of issues like that. And I'm going to move on from here. The next one we said was acetylcholine, and it plays several important roles, including muscle contraction, memory, attention and learning, control of muscle contractions, the skeletal muscles, used for movement, and muscles for digestion, internal organ functions, regulating attention, arousal, and memory. It is so important. So Alzheimer's disease is affected by acetylcholine. If your acetylcholine is low, you're very open to Alzheimer's disease and other conditions. So that's very, very important. And if you lose your memory, then you lose who you are. As we grow older, if you get some sort of Alzheimer's or other cognitive issue, then once you lose your memory, you're no longer who you are. you have no idea. And it's fine for you because you won't even know it. But imagine what your family has to go through if you lose your memory, if you don't recognize your family, if you have any of these issues. It's a real issue. Okay, so that's acetylcholine, Alzheimer's, arthritis, autism, cholesterol, elevated sexual ability, diabetes, difficulty urinating, eye disorders, fat cravings, and the list goes on. So I'm not going to carry on with that. Then GABA. Now GABA is the third one of these essential and most important amino acids, and it's a neurotransmitter, chemical messenger, as we know, and this signals the brain. GABA works with certain receptors, and it's involved in brain function, including regulating of anxiety, sleep, muscle tone. So if you can't sleep, often it's an issue with your GABA in the body. Epilepsy, anxiety disorders, neurological disorders. And we're going to move on from here. I'm not going to go through all those others, but as you see, we do have a remedy for that. Now, serotonin is known as your feel-good neurotransmitter because it regulates mood and appetite and sleep. And that includes the regulation of mood disorders, perceptions of the brain, and often your antidepressants will trap your serotonin in your brain. And that's the way they work. Whereas here, we get the body to generate them, serotonin or the other amino acids, and we're actually putting the amino acids into the body as well. So it's to do with blood clotting, appetite, digestion, depression, anxiety, and even migraine headaches. If one's having migraine headaches, one often is low on serotonin, and that can cause major issues. So smell issues, aches and soreness, allergies, arthritis, backache, blurred vision, cold, clammy hands, carb cravings, constipation, diarrhea, dizziness, lightheaded, dry mouth, headaches, hypertension, insomnia. And this type of insomnia normally is you can go to sleep quite easily, but you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't go back to sleep. Night sweats, PMS, premature ejaculation, tachycardia, that's a fast heartbeat, tinnitus, tremors, frequent urination. How many guys have frequent urination where they get up 5 or 10 times a night? This is one of the possibilities that it could all stem from this. Weight gain and depression, impulsiveness, lack of common sense, lack of pleasure, OCD, phobias, shyness, perfectionism, confusion, loss of memories, concentration, restlessness, slow reaction time, and hypervigilance. So many factors in this whole thing. Okay, so what I'm going to say here is we are going to actually end this presentation right now. It's very short. We have maximum of 25 minutes left. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing the screen, and we're going to have the interactive part of it. So there we are. Okay, Tanvi, Michelle, do you want to unmute yourself?
Here I am.
Okay, so what we're going to do now, guys, I am going to read you a questionnaire. I'm going to show you how this questionnaire works. I'm going to read it to you. And as I read it to you, I want everybody to quickly get a pen and paper or a pencil and paper as quickly as possible so we can do this, because it's going to take a few minutes. And I'll ask you to mark it. And at the end of this questionnaire, which will be available on the Biosol website, I'm told, at the end of the questionnaire, you're going to know whether or not, or which chemical, brain chemical you're short of. So there'll be a number of questions, and as you're getting your pencils, I'm going to explain how it works. I'm going to read you a question. You're going to say true or false. You don't need to worry about the falses. Just tick or number, write down the number, say 1 for the first one. So when I read the first one, you write 1. The second one, 2, if it's true. If it's false, don't write anything. So if everyone's got a paper, what's his name, a pen and paper, then just let me know.
I'm done. I've got it.
Okay, has everyone else got it? Do you want to let me know? Okay, Yvonne is ready. Everyone else ready? Marlene is ready. Jean, are you ready? Can't see you. Can't hear you. I'm going to assume you are ready. So, as I say, you're going to mark, you're going to, with each number, each question, you're going to write, if it's, the first question is, I'm having trouble paying attention and concentrating. If that's true, you write a 1 there. So that's the first question, and don't think about it a long time. Just the first answer that comes into your head, you just write 1. And then the next one, you'll write 2. Okay. So question number 1. I have trouble paying attention and concentrating. True or false? I need caffeine to wake up. True or false? I cannot think quickly enough. True or false? I do not have a good attention span. True or false? I have trouble getting through a task even when it's interesting to me. True or false? I am slow at learning new ideas. True or false? I crave sugar. True or false? I have decreased libido. True or false? I sleep too much. True or false? I have a history of alcohol or addiction. True or false? I have recently felt worn out for no apparent reason. True or false? I sometimes experience total exhaustion without even exerting myself. True or false? I have always battled weight problems. True or false? I have little motivation for sexual experiences. True or false? I have trouble getting out of bed in the morning. True or false? I have a craving for cocaine, amphetamines, or ecstasy. True or false? I feel fine following others. True or false? People seem to take advantage of me. True or false? I am feeling very down and depressed. True or false? People have told me I am too mellow. True or false? I have little urgency. True or false? I let people criticize me. True or false? I always look to others to lead me. True or false? I have lost my reasoning skills. True or false? I can't make good decisions. True or false? Right. So you'll have a number there, which will be the number of truths you've marked there. So everyone should just write their dopamine and the number. Okay, when you're done, just let me know.
So we've just got to figure out how many truths we've got.
That's all you want. The number
Yeah.
of truths. So if it's 10, 15, whatever it is, you just write that down.
Okay. Do you want me to start?
You don't have to tell
Oh, okay. All right. Cool.
if you don't want to. But Ivana's told us she's got a very low number. Yeah. Okay. Just if you want to tell, it's all good, you know.
Okay. So I was 6 and Yvonne was 2. And Marlene?
I've got 8 and Debbie's got 7.
Okay.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to the next set of questions. There are four sets because there's one set of questions for each of the amino acids.
Okay.
Okay, ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, I lack imagination, true or false? I have difficulty remembering names when I first meet people, true or false? I have noticed that my memory and ability or my memory ability is decreasing. My significant other tells me that I don't have romantic thoughts. I can't remember my friends' birthdays, true or false? I have lost some of my creativity, true or false? I have insomnia, true or false? I have lost muscle tone, true or false? I don't exercise anymore, true or false? I crave fatty foods, true or false? I have experimented with hallucinogenic drugs and other illicit drugs, true or false? I feel like my body is falling apart, true or false? I can't breathe easily, true or false? I don't feel joy often, true or false? I feel despair, true or false? I protect myself from being hurt by others by never telling much about myself, true or false? I find it more comfortable to do things alone rather than in a large group, true or false? Other people get angrier about bothersome things than I do, true or false? I give in easily and tend to be submissive, true or false? I rarely feel passion about anything, true or false? I like routine, true or false? I don't care about anyone's stories except mine, true or false? I don't pay attention to other people's feelings, true or false? I don't feel buoyant, true or false? I am obsessed with my deficiencies, true or false? That's the end of that test. So you can write acetylcholine, ACETYLCHOLINE, and the number of truths that you got.
Sure.
So if you want to tell us what you got, or if you don't, that's also okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I got 5 and Debbie got 10.
Okay. Anybody else want to tell us or not?
7 for me.
Okay.
11.
Okay. All right. So the next one we're going to do, we're going to start now. This is the third one, second and last one. Because we need to finish by 5:2. So we will. Question number 1. I find it difficult to concentrate because I am nervous and jumpy. True or false? I can't remember phone numbers. True or false? I have trouble finding the right word. True or false? I have trouble remembering things when I'm put on the spot. True or false? I know that I'm intelligent, but it's hard to show others. True or false? My ability to focus comes and goes. True or false? When I read, I find that I go over the same paragraph a few times to absorb the information. True or false? I am a quick thinker, but I can't always say what I mean. True or false? I feel shaky. True or false? I sometimes tremble. True or false? I have frequent backaches and headaches or headaches. True or false? I tend to have shortness of breath. True or false? I tend to have heart palpitations. True or false? I tend to have cold hands. True or false? I sometimes sweat too much. I am sometimes dizzy. True or false? I often have muscle tension. True or false? I tend to get butterflies in my stomach. True or false? I crave bitter food. True or false? I am often nervous. True or false? I like exercise because it helps me relax. True or false? I often feel fatigued even when I have had a good night's sleep. True or false? I overeat. True or false? I have mood swings. True or false? I enjoy doing many things at one time, but find it difficult to decide what to do first. True or false? I tend to do things just because I think they're fun. True or false? Are dull, I always try to introduce some excitement. True or false? I tend to be fickle, changing my mood and my thought frequently. True or false? I tend to get overly excited about things. True or false? My impulses tend to get me into a lot of trouble. True or false? I tend to be theatrical and draw attention to myself. True or false? I speak no matter what the reaction of others may be, true or false. I sometimes have fits of rage and then feel terribly guilty, true or false. I often tell lies to get out of trouble, true or false. I have always had less interest than the average person in sex, true or false. I don't play by the rules anymore, true or false. I have lost many friends, true or false. I can't sustain romantic relationships, true or false. I consider the law arbitrary and without reason, true or false. I now consider rules that I used to follow ridiculous, true or false. Okay, guys, time to total that up, and you write GABA next to the total. Okay, so Yvonne got 14.
I got 17 and Debbie got 15.
15.
You as well, Tanya Michelle, 15.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's go on to the next one. And I'm going to start reading out the questions now.
Okay.
I am not very perceptive, true or false. I can't remember things that I've seen in the past, true or false. I have a slow reaction time, true or false. I have a poor sense of direction, true or false. I have night sweats, true or false. I have insomnia, true or false. I tend to sleep in many different positions in order to feel comfortable, true or false. I always wake early in the morning, true or false. I can't relax, true or false. I wake up at least twice per night, true or false. It is difficult for me to fall back to sleep when I am awake, true or false. I crave salt, true or false. I have less energy to exercise, true or false. I am sad, true or false. I have chronic anxiety, true or false. I am easily irritated, true or false. I have thoughts of self-destruction, true or false. I have had suicidal thoughts in my life, true or false. I tend to dwell on thoughts too much, true or false. I am sometimes so structured that I become inflexible, true or false. My imagination takes over, true or false. Fear grips me, true or false? I can't stop thinking about the meaning of life, true or false? I no longer want to take risks, true or false? The lack of meaning in my life is painful, true or false? Okay, let's total them up now. That's the end of that section. That's the last section of the test. And at this point, I just want to say that we give credit to Dr. Eric Braverman, who designed that test many years ago.
Cool. And for which one was this?
This was for serotonin.
Okay.
So you should have dopamine, acetylcholine, GABA, and serotonin now.
Okay. So what does this mean? The numbers.
Well,
Below.
do you want to call your numbers out or not?
Okay. Yeah. 10.
Last one. 10. Anybody else want to call them out?
5.
I've got 4.
4.
No, I've got 4 and Debbie's got 12.
Okay.
I've got 5.
Got 5. Okay. So it works like this. The higher the number, so if you've got 4, you don't have a problem with that amino acid. It's working fine. If you go higher, above 10, it's becoming an issue. So one should take 1 capsule a day or 2 capsules a day. If you're at 17, it's quite high, and you need to maybe do 3 or 4 a day for a period of time, because it'll balance. Because this is actually a test on the deficiency in your body of these particular amino acids. Balance this, and you will find that your life generally will change for the best. You'll probably find you start sleeping better, able to lose weight if you need to. Your metabolism will speed up or balance itself out. You'll feel better about yourself, all these different things. So if you had a whole series of low numbers, you're pretty much balanced. But if you have a situation where you've got high numbers, then you do need to supplement with these amino acids. So that's the way the test works, the amino acid test, or the Braverman test, and we use it extensively in our clinic with extremely good results. And the idea is that we can have this available on the BioSol website, where people can do the test, and then they'll know if they're short of these, because this is the starting point of any nootropic program. After that, we can look at other mushrooms and alpha lipoic acid and different other different nootropics. But this is the starting point. So that's basically all I wanted to say tonight. I don't know if there are any questions or if we have time for questions.
No, I think it's we don't have time for questions, but I think this was absolutely excellent, very enjoyable. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad it was good. Yeah. So as I say, this is something, and this is only just scratching the surface of balancing the brain. Only just touching the very, very beginning of it.
This
so,
was
guys,
Dr.
thank you.
Steve,
yeah.
Dr. Steve, just one question. What is phenylalanine? Or
That's a different
phenylalanine, I think it's
phenylalanine. That's a different amino acid. You know, they're different. They're at least 20 essential amino acids in the body. So each one has a different purpose. So you could, for instance, find that part of a combo, because example, the GABA, etc., will have more than one amino acid in it. So there's lots of them with numerous different tasks in the body.
Okay, because I took it at one point for mood swings, you know, I was depressed and then I was taking it. And I found also that it actually made focus a lot better and kept me awake during the day. But then somebody said to me that it's good to take it all.
No, that's not a problem to take it. You know, you can certainly take amino acids. It's like eating food. They're proteins, basically. So absolutely. These nootropics are very, very safe. But I must point this out. Some people will come in and they will say, "Oh, I want to take serotonin because I believe that that's what I need." It's always better to do this test before starting the balance, because I've had people come in and they've taken the wrong amino acid because they didn't do the test, and it's had exactly the wrong effect, because they were already balanced and then they were increasing it way beyond what was useful.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much.
Dr. Steve,
Yes.
based on the numbers, is there a guideline as to when we must take, like, you know, from what number do you actually have to start taking something like dopamine? I've got 8, for example, but I know with GABA I've got 17. So obviously you say three times a day, or you take it 3 times a day. What is the guidelines on those numbers?
What we normally do is we say if it's above 10, it's worth taking, and you should do a maximum of 2 unless they're very high, you know. So normally it would be 2, and then you can balance it, because you'll feel the difference after a fairly short time. But below 10, I wouldn't take it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
But I've got better guidelines than that. We just don't have time tonight.
Yeah, okay.
We'll make a plan.
Yes.
Okay.